She's trying to feed the squirrels, but they're not really going for it. Find you a woman who loves animals as much as she does. Oh. Those birds are not trying to let that squirrel eat at all. Jesus Christ. But we have our setup right here. We are currently at a rest stop here in an undisclosed location in Mississippi. I think we're actually pretty close to Alabama, which of course means we are no longer in Louisiana. So we spent the past 2 days, 2.5 days, give or take, in Louisiana. And it was really nice to go back, see how things have changed. Well, I guess things really haven't changed, but just to be able to see New Orleans with a new set of eyes. I don't know what this one is on.
He said I got a new set of eyes.
Oh no. Well, our time in Louisiana is officially over, and I'm curious to hear your perspective. I mean, I already know your perspective, but I'm sure that this person is very curious to hear your perspective, because it seems like your view of New Orleans is very different than your view of Dallas. So, for starters, in the past, you've never said this on camera, but you have been quoted as saying that Dallas is a bit soulless.
Yeah.
It's devoid of character, which is a very fair argument to make, by the way. If you've been to Dallas, you know exactly what she's talking about. But tell me about your perspective on New Orleans in those regards.
Yeah. It was a lot more lively.
More lively.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Elaborate.
A lot more going on. There were people making music, and just people watching them make music and dancing, and I feel like there were a lot more people walking around, and the buildings looked like they had more character.
Yeah.
And yeah, it felt more alive, definitely, than Dallas does.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because Dallas probably has 2 to 3 times the population of New Orleans. But you would never know.
It seems like there's not that much going on
In Dallas?
there. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's not. Dallas is the kind of place that you move to make more money and spend less of it. But that's literally it. That's pretty much the only real appeal. The weather sucks. It doesn't really have its own culture. You don't hear about any prominent musicians or other creatives coming from Dallas. It's literally just Dallas. It's pretty much the most generic American city that you can ever see. And as you saw over the past couple of days, New Orleans is the least generic city that you can be in. But talk to me about what it felt like going through some of the lower income neighborhoods, because I know that you've said that Europe doesn't really have neighborhoods like that, right? At least in the Netherlands.
I mean, yeah, it does have like lower income neighborhoods, but not in that extent.
Yeah.
So it's definitely very eye-opening of an experience to see that there's people living like that in kind of broken down homes, and then there's people living in mansions in the same, like, what was it, 20 minutes away or something?
Yeah, within the same city limits.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of crazy to see. And then
Yeah.
how busted the roads were. Just that whole vibe in those neighborhoods.
Listen, okay. If you're a European watching this, if you're Dutch specifically, I have a PSA, and she is going to back me up on this, I can guarantee you. A lot of Dutch people talk about the roads in Belgium, or maybe even in Germany, in reference to how bad they are. I want you to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. How bad are the roads in Belgium compared to New Orleans? Let's say, for example, if you said that Dutch roads are a 10 out of 10,
Yeah.
what would New Orleans roads be, and what would Belgian roads be?
Belgian roads would be 6.
A 6? Okay.
6.5. New Orleans would be 2.5.
3.5 is crazy.
4 at most.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. From everything that you saw, if there was a European watching this, and this is just disregarding the whole border control situation, let's just assume that that's cleared up, right? Would you recommend that European people visit New Orleans? Do you think it's worth visiting?
What do you mean? In terms of what?
Just the experience. Do you feel like it's worth visiting?
Yeah. I feel like traveling in itself is worth it.
Yeah, but for example, you probably wouldn't recommend that a Dutch person travel to Dallas if they can travel somewhere else, if they have another option. Do you think New Orleans is worth visiting?
I mean, for a day or two.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much to do.
There's not.
But the food was really good. And the vibe was nice. Well, in some places the vibe was nice.
We did take a break from the canned food yesterday. We went and got some vegan po' boys at this place called Two Fat Vegans, I think, something like that. Yeah. It was either in or right outside of the French Quarter. Let me tell you something. It was really expensive. It was probably $45 for both of us, and that was with a 20% tip, because of course here in the US you tip 20%, but it was worth it. That was legitimately worth the money. That was so good.
Yeah.
If you go there, I would recommend you get the, what was it, hot Italian sausage po' boy.
Hot sausage
po' boy. Yeah, it was really, really good. If you're wondering why we keep looking around, it's because these birds are basically just swarming our table right now. But I digress. The food in New Orleans is literally world class.
Yeah.
It will lower your life expectancy, so be mindful of that. There's a reason why Louisiana has a lower life expectancy than the rest of the US, which already has a lower life expectancy than the Netherlands and much of Europe. But honestly, sometimes you have to sacrifice longevity for just momentary satisfaction. And that food in New Orleans is a sacrifice worth making on occasion. Now, speaking of food, talk to me about the beignets, because she had a beignet for the first time. And if you're Dutch, you might have had something called, what was it? Oliebol?
Oliebollen.
Oliebollen.
Yeah.
So you said that beignets are kind of similar to oliebollen, right?
Yeah. They're, I don't want to say the same thing, but they're really similar. Like, oliebol is kind of just a round version of a beignet with maybe kind of a little bit more of a crispy outside if you're baking it right, and then maybe more filled, I guess, the ratio.
Yeah.
And then it's a little bit more oily.
The oliebol or the beignet?
The oliebol.
Is an oliebol something that you just eat whenever, or is it something for special occasions?
That's for New Year's. That's what we eat at New Year. And around that time.
See, that's the difference. In New Orleans, you just eat beignets just because. It's just a casual snack.
No, yeah, you'll see oliebol stands like at the Albert or something. Yeah, just in the cities.
I need to find a vegan version of that.
Yeah,
I really want to try that.
Really try it. It's really good.
I also really want to try the.
But then sometimes they put raisins in there as well, but I don't like that.
Nah, I think I'm gonna pass on that one. But what are those cookies called? Paper nota that you eat around Sinterklaas?
Yeah.
I want to try those so bad. Those look so nice.
I haven't had that in a while, actually.
Ik ook niet.
I haven't had that in a while. That's so good. It's kind of like, no, not really, but it kind of gives speculoos vibes. But then, yeah, maybe more warm.
Yeah.
Something. I don't know how to explain it, but it's so good.
I feel like I can visualize in my head what they probably taste like.
It's so good. And also if you make it at home and then they're still warm, it's so good too. And then you have paper nota covered in chocolate. That's really nice.
So earlier in the video I told them that we are at a rest stop in Mississippi. We're actually really close to Alabama, by the way. We're probably around, yeah, maybe 30 minutes of a drive from Alabama. 30-40 minutes, something like that. So obviously you haven't seen much of Mississippi,
No.
but just from the interactions you've had, the things that you've seen so far, are there any new culture shocks that you've experienced from being in the Deep South? And if you don't know what the Deep South is, it's basically the region stretching from, I would argue, East Texas all the way to North Carolina and debatably Virginia. But Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all of these states, and we're gonna see a lot more of these states literally today because we're on our way to Georgia right now. But those states are undeniably Deep South. So what are some things that you've noticed from just being in the Deep South, being in New Orleans for the past couple of days, interacting with some of the people, and just experiencing life in the Deep South of the US? Also known as Trump land, because this is the most heavily conservative part of the country by far.
Yeah, I feel like everyone that we've interacted with was really nice.
Very friendly?
Yeah. And some people like held the door and stuff. And it seemed like where we were, can I say your name?
Yeah.
Slidell. Especially that people were really friendly and seemed to know each other or something.
Yeah.
That was really something I noticed. That they seem to know more of each other than maybe around the Dallas area.
Yeah.
And yeah, what else?
It doesn't just have to be about the people either. It can be the infrastructure, the vegetation, it could be pretty much anything.
The infrastructure is definitely different. Like, first of all, I feel like everything in Texas was bigger in general. The roads were bigger, the houses, well, in general. And there was more stone work in the houses. And here I feel like it was more wood paneling. Something I noticed as well.
Which architecture do you prefer? Texas architecture or Southern architecture?
Well, is Texas not southern?
It's Southern, but it's kind of Western as well. It's kind of where the South and the West meet. You won't really see a whole lot of cowboys in this part of the country like you will in Texas. This is more redneck. Cowboys are more Western, rednecks are more Southern. Rednecks are more so, yeah, how do I even explain that?
What's a typical redneck?
A redneck is, how do you feel about van life as a whole?
It's definitely a lot more complicated than I thought. Well, I knew that there would be things that are just not really convenient.
Yeah.
But we've had quite a few difficulties and inconveniences already.
Yeah.
And that can really put you off.
Yeah.
And be really tiring, and then how hot it can be in the car.
Oh my gosh.
In the van, and how you just sleep for 3 hours a night.
Listen.
But we got the best sleep ever last night though.
I probably got around 9 hours of sleep, maybe 9.5 hours of sleep last night. We woke up at around 11:30. Now, as I've said before, when you're sleeping in a vehicle, when the sun comes up, it gets hot. Even if it's not even hot outside, once the sun is up, it gets hot. And it's hot at night in Louisiana. So that's a big part of the reason why we're just trying to get up out of here. We're trying to get away from the South because it's too damn hot. But listen, I'm gonna put a screenshot on the screen of what I looked like when I woke up, because it was absolutely ridiculous. Because the sun came up at 7, we woke up at 11:30, so that's about 4.5 hours of just sleeping in a hot car. And that's with the window covers. I feel like the window covers, they keep the sun out, but they don't keep the heat out at all. At all. Probably because they're black and they attract more heat. but I don't think I've ever sweated like that in my whole entire life. And that shower that we took, because we went straight into the gym and worked out, and that shower afterwards was just sensational.